Welcome to this playlist, which is devoted to a reading and better understanding of the book Ascent of Mount Carmel by St. John of the Cross. And today we're on the 42nd chapter of the third book. St. John of the Cross tells us that there are three kinds of places that are particularly conducive to prayer. And the first kind of place is a solitary place that's pleasant. This might be a rural area, or it could be an urban place that it's secluded and perhaps it's surrounded by a hedge or trees. And we'll be able to determine whether this type of place is beneficial for us if we pray there, and the place almost instantly brings us to tranquility and recollection, and then we forget the place itself. Going to these types of places is a means to an end, but if we get wrapped up in enjoying the scenery more than is necessary, it actually becomes a hindrance. It becomes counterproductive. If we continue to be aware of our surroundings while we pray, it could lead to spiritual aridity and distraction. When people find a nice secluded place, they should forget it and strive to be inwardly with God, as though they were not in that place at all. For if they are attached to the pleasure and delight of the place, they are seeking refreshment of sense and instability of spirit rather than spiritual repose. The second kind of place is a place where we might return to if we've received supernatural favors from God there. Such a place attracts the heart of the person who has received a favor there, and sometimes gives him great desires and yearnings to return to the place, although, when he goes there, what happened to him before may not be repeated, since this is not within his control. For God grants these favors when and how and where he pleases, without being tied to any place or time, nor to the free will of the person to whom he grants them. Yet it's good to go and pray in such places at times if the desire is free from attachment. The reasons that it's good to pray in these types of places are because if we have received a special supernatural experience from God while praying at a particular place, it may be that God wills us to praise him at that particular place. Also, we might be more apt to give thanks to God for that which he has given to us at that place. And finally, by remembering the favor, our devotion will be more likely awakened at that place. For these reasons, we should frequent a place if God has given us a favor there. Please note, and this is important, that if our spiritual advisor hasn't explicitly told us that an experience has come from God, or if we don't even have a spiritual director, then we should not be returning to a place of a supernatural experience. If we are rejecting the experience as St. John has instructed us to do, there's no reason to frequent the place where it occurred. In fact, if we are returning to the place, we are probably fooling ourselves that we're rejecting the experience, and we're actually have an attachment to that place and to the experience. The third kind of place, it would be a historical place where God has chosen to guide mankind. And St. John gives us an example of Mount Sinai, where God gave the law to Moses. And we could probably include other special places like St. Peter's Cathedral or Fatima and Lourdes to this list, except St. John earlier told us that when we take a pilgrimage, it shouldn't be to a crowded place. Instead, we should be going to a less visited place. St. John concludes this chapter by stressing, God will hear our prayers in any place where we pray to him with perfect faith, although there is much greater opportunity for us to be heard in places dedicated to his service, since the Church has appointed and dedicated those places to that end. Well, I hope you enjoyed this installment of Ascent of Mount Carmel. We'll be back again in about a week with another one. But in the meantime, please check out my Facebook page, which is linked down below. I regularly post additional content which you won't find on this YouTube channel. And also, please pray for the church.
Oh, men that live a happy home, all that they process. Lord Jesus, will you hear us now? Help us in our distress, and moan, and moan, and moan. People that run and pray, women that live a lovely one.